Hi there, I'm the Disney Runner, and yes, looks can be deceiving, but just to prove my point, here's me back in 2020. Look at that magnificent specimen of a human being there. This is me doing the 2020 Dopey Challenge, so for those who know, it's a 5k, 10k, half marathon, and a full marathon in 4 days, which is quite a lot of running. I can't remember which day this was, to be fair, and if you have a look, I'm pretty much falling asleep, but if you're aware of when they do these runs, it is very, very early in the morning. Very early indeed. But yeah, so hopefully in this channel I'll be doing a little bit of running content, but mostly Disney related content. From my channel, if you've subscribed recently, you'll see that most of my videos are ride-along videos, though I do want to start expanding into doing more content. And today what I want to do is start having a look at the Premier Access Pass system. That was announced last week for Disney World and for Disneyland, and there's been some controversy over the pricing and the accessibility, especially for Orlando. But I wanted to not just have a look at the US, but have a look at how France does it, how Hong Kong does it, how Shanghai does it, and how Tokyo does it. Every park has their own Premier Access Pass, and every park has a totally different pricing system, and you get different bang for your buck, essentially. So let's see who gets the best bang for their buck. I've got a funny feeling it's not your Orlando, I'm sorry. I have a funny feeling it might be Hong Kong. Paris, probably a close second. Anyway, let's see where we are, and let's get into it. So as you can see on the screen here, what I've done is I've brought up basically the prices for Disney World itself to start with. So we'll start with Disney World, and as you see, Epcot 169 to 249, Hollywood Studios 269 to 349, Animal Kingdom 129 to 199, and Magic Kingdom at 329 to 449. That's the low end, high end, not including taxes. I'm not 100% certain how the Americans work the taxes out, so I'm just going to leave it at these base prices. So what I've done is I've taken the medium of all the lows and high prices for each of the parks. I've then divided it up to get you a rough idea per price per attraction that you'll be paying. So like I said, I've taken the price from the medium of the range from Disney World. We'll start with Magic Kingdom. So for $389 per day per person, you're looking at a rate of $20, just under $20 a ride. So it's $19.45 roughly. That's obviously before tax. Is how much you're paying per ride. And you can see the list here. You've got Barnstormer, Big Thunder, Buzz Lightyear, Dumbo, Haunted Mansion. And I'm looking at this list, I'm thinking, how many of them do you really feel are worth $20 per ride? Actually, how many of them do you feel are worth $30 per person per ride to skip the line? And I can't think of many. Maybe Tron might be worth it. At a push, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. But the rest of them, I think you'll generally get on fairly easily. Even on a fairly busy day, you'll get on a reasonable push of most of these rides. And I don't think many people are going there for one day, especially not from the UK. We'll be going there for several days, and over the several days you'll certainly pick up most of those rides, if not all of them, without too much fuss. So I think you're charging $20 extra per ride, you're really pushing the boat out for it. And the other thing you have to remember with Orlando's is not only is it an extra $20 per ride, this is only available in limited numbers and only for people staying at the Deluxe Resorts. So it's your Deluxe Resorts, your Animal Kingdom Lodge, your Contemporary Resort, your Boardwalk Inn. You can see here the UK prices, which are about £9,500 for 2 weeks, and this doesn't include your park tickets, and then it doesn't include your Premier Pass on top of that. So these are the prices, and this is where Disney are really saying that this is a system really for very, very high tier guests. But this is the only part they're doing it, and they're not doing it in LA, but that's the other holdback for the Orlando parks. You have to be staying at one of these very, very expensive resorts. So the next one we'll look at is Epcot. You've got 11 attractions here. Slightly better deal at around about $19 per fast pass, but still that's a ridiculous amount of money for some of these, I think. Again, I might be tempted to pay $19 for one or two of these rides, but I certainly wouldn't pay $19 for each of these rides in a day pass. And that's sort of like middle tier, taking into account that we're about $209 for the day. It just seems that you're wasting. I suppose if you've got the money to burn, you've got the money to burn. But I think for most of us, even those staying at the luxury resorts, I mean, I could think of better things to spend my $209 on. I mean, I quite happily go and get myself a nice bit of grade A Wagyu steak for myself, and the teppanyaki bar. So each to their own, I suppose. But again, working out at about $19 per person per ride. Again, how many of them are worth $19 on their own, let alone divvied up between them? Okay, so Animal Kingdom. This is probably your best bang for your buck at Disney World Orlando price-wise. Again, you've got, I believe it's 10 fast passes. Avatar, I would certainly pay $16 for. If it was, I don't know what it's like these days, but when I went a few years ago, you were queuing out the door for 3 hours some days. Dinosaur is not going to be there in 6 months, is it? That's all going to be shut down and replaced with Indiana Jones, and how long's that? And are they going to vary these prices depending on what attractions are open? I can't see that happening. They'll just price it on the, how busy the day is. Expedition Everest, fun ride, nice little ride, but again, worth $16.50, $16.40. Again, better bang for your buck at the Animal Kingdom at $164. This is the medium price, so averaging out at $16.40 per ride. So you do get a little bit better value. But again, other than Flight of Passage, Everest, is there anything there really that's worth $16, $17? I really don't think so. I think the good thing about Animal Kingdom, it's a short half-day park. You can get through most of it in half a day. If you want to spend a little bit more time there, I say by the time the evening comes around, a lot of these queues have died down, and I just think it's a lot of money to ask. Again, per person, per ride. I'm not saying that fast passes are a bad idea. I just think that the pricing doesn't seem to be quite right at the Orlando parks. And finally, we are at the most expensive bang for your buck. It really is at $22 per ride at Orlando. I can imagine this is in no small amount, and down to Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, down to Slinky Dog. They are two of the biggest, longest queues that I see. There's also a lot more shows involved at this particular park. You've obviously got the Beauty and the Beast live show, Disney Junior, unless you've got kids, and then if you've got kids, you're paying for several of these parks, but at $22 per attraction on average at Hollywood Studios. Again, I might consider paying $22 for Rise of the Resistance on its own, but not $22 on average per ride. It just seems a little bit mistaken. Hopefully somebody in the comments can correct me if I'm being stupid, or whether I've totally caught this up, and I'll delete the video and I'll bin it off. But from what I can see, average price of $350. You only get to ride each of these attractions once. You can go, the perk is you can go whenever you want. You can just show the fast pass and you can go whatever time. You don't have to book a time like you have to with the other Lightning Lane passes. So again, there's that bonus, but an average of $309 for the day, $22 per ride. Again, it's a little, I think Disney World specifically out of all the parks, especially in America, each park is pushing the boundaries a little bit, I think, of what people would really or should really be willing to pay. I mean, it's one thing to pay for the odd ride, $22, and even then it's a lot of money per ride on top of your park tickets, on top of the fact that you're paying ridiculous amounts to stay at the hotels there, the Deluxe Resorts. And this isn't open to everyone, like I say, just the Deluxe Resorts. I think it's a little bit crazy, just me, but yeah. So here we are at the Disneyland website. As you can see, they actually do have the pricing on the website. The Orlando park doesn't, because the variations through days and different parks. It's probably a little bit more complicated. So it's $400 per person up until 31st of December this year, and then it will vary between $300 and $400 next year per person. And this covers both parks. It covers 24 rides, and it works out an average nicely of about $14.50 per ride. So already in California, and I don't believe there's sales tax added to the California one either. So if we average out again at $350 for the day, we're looking at about $14.50 per ride. Now I'm pressing the wrong button, so it doesn't help. So here we go. Boom. Again, it's this, like with anything, it depends on. Indiana Jones, we know, is often long queues. You're looking at 60-70 minutes waits. Smuggler's Run, it's one of those that can and can't be. Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, again, it's another one. I would pay $20 for that ride alone. I think the thing here is to take into account is, are you likely to do both parks in one day? I feel like it's a little bit of a rush. If you are, why not take one part one day, the other part the next? But then you're going to pay $350 per day just to get half of your value. Granted, if you have got this perk, you can easily walk onto every ride, and you don't have to worry so much about the $300 about spending time in the park, because you're not having to worry about queuing on anything. But I just think it almost adds this rush around the parks if you are doing this. Again, what's on here that's really making me think, Big Thunder's a classic. Always queues, no matter which Big Thunder I go into around the world. Big Thunder's always got a bit of a queue. Same with the Matterhorn. I love that ride. It's phenomenal. It's the history behind it, and how old it is, and the fact it's still going. It's one of my favourite rides when we went there last year. Pirates of the Caribbean, another classic, but it's fairly flowing. A lot of these rides. Small World, it's a fairly flowing ride. Mickey and Minnie's Railway. We thought there'd be a much tougher queue to get through, but that's quite a smooth queue, and a lot going on in the queues as well. So again, the odd ride here and there, you can get on your lightning lane anyway. $14.50, it's a little bit more of a consideration, especially when you're considering you're also getting California Adventure Parks as well, which does have I love the Mission Breakout, bit of a queue there, but not anything huge. The biggest one obviously here is Radiator Racers. Again, you can base off a separate lightning lane single pass for that one. Spider-Man can have a bit of a queue. I know we do have it, and Incredicoaster. But again, these are things you can still get on your multi-pass. So it's $350. If you want to rush around both parks in one day, yeah, possibly it's worth a go. But it's a lot of money at $14.50 per ride on top of your... again, it works out quite nice because I think it's 24 attractions. So yeah, it's great if you can get around them. But it also doesn't tell you what... It's not going to give you money back if two of these rides are closed for the day. And take Indiana Jones, for example. I was down there last year, and there are a couple of days where it hardly seemed to be open half the time, And you get off one ride, rush over there to try jump in the queue, and it was broken down again. And that's kind of the other problem. If you're over at Disneyland's quite nice because both the parks are fairly close and nice and easy to walk across, so you can walk in and out of them without too much of an issue. But again, at $350, if a couple of these rides are down, you're upping that average straight away, which is something you have to bear in mind and take into consideration. So, like I say, Easter egg, I think you definitely get better bang for your buck, better proposition value at Disneyland California Adventure than you do at Orlando. And again, the good thing is you don't have to stay at a ridiculously overly priced resort. You can you can just go in and pre-book this a couple of days before you go. So yeah. So I'm going to come back with the closest thing I've got to a home Disney park, which is Paris, which I'm an annual pass holder there. Me and my partner, we both love it there. We go 2, 3, 4 times a year sometimes, depending on events and what's going on at the parks, and if we can afford it. So generally a much more reasonably priced park anyway. We have obviously the Disney Premier Access Ultimate. I'm not 100% certain what the max price of the Ultimate is. I have seen it as high as €160, which works out $174, and starts at around €90, which is about $96. I believe if we go through, we have 16 attractions in total that the park has the Premier Access for, and again, it's a much as it's a similar sort of mix of rides that you'll get at any of the parks, really. Again, there's a handful of rides where it's definitely worth having a Premier Access for. I would recommend, if you were only going to get one pass at all throughout the day, it's for Crush's Coaster, because you're normally looking at a 70-minute wait for this no matter what day, and on busy days that's going to go, even on a quiet day, this will hit around 70 minutes for most of the day. It's not got the quickest throughput. It's also the only ride of its kind at any of the Disney parks, which is quite cool. So yeah, it's the only one I ever have bought a premium pass for is this. But as far as value proposition goes, it does work out much better. On the average mean, I think it's about $135 I worked it out. So somewhere between the 96 and 174. So $135, it actually works out at about $8.50 per attraction. The one thing that is a little bit annoying that it doesn't include, maybe they'll throw it in at some point, is it doesn't include the fireworks show at the end of the night. There is a separate Premier Access available, or a separate access pass available for the fireworks at the end of the night. But Paris is my preferred park because it's the easiest one for me to get to, and it's again, I think value for money. It's not too bad at $8.50 per ride per attraction. So you've got 16 attractions in total. Yeah, that's more of a proposition on a busy day. 100, even at 174, you're still only looking at just over $10 per ride. So it's one of those that if it's really busy and I only had a day there, I might consider it. But if I was going for a few days, again, I just wait for quieter hours and quieter times. This is why I don't quite understand what these Premier Accesses are for. I mean, at the lower end, if it's a day where it's at the cheaper end anyway, chances are you're not going to be queuing that high for most of the rides anyway. And at the top end, it becomes is it really worth the extra money to pay on top of your park ticket? Yeah, again, each to their own. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Horses for courses and all that. It seems to be, for me, a little bit legit, to be fair, a little bit of a rip-off. But at least with Paris, you're only looking at about $8.50 per ride. So here we are, at Hong Kong Premier Access. We are looking at the 10 attraction offer that they do. They do a 10 attraction, they do an 8 attraction. The difference between the two is the 10 attraction includes 2 shows that aren't available in the 8 attraction. So if you just want the rides, you can get an 8 attraction one, which is, I'll do a brief overview of the price of that as well. So what you'll see here is it's at 800 Hong Kong dollars. So don't let that fool you or put you off. So if you don't know your Hong Kong dollars, I didn't, oddly enough, I don't often spend my Hong Kong dollars. That works out at about 102 US dollars. So that works out at about $10 per attraction, including the 2 shows. If you were just to get the rides, I don't know whether it's on this page. No, it's not on this page. There is another package of just the rides, which is works out at $68 US, works out at the same sort of price as Disneyland Paris at $8.50 per ride. So for just rides attractions, you're looking at the same price per attraction as you would get at Disneyland Paris. So that's $8.50 per attraction. Obviously, Hong Kong Disney's a much smaller park. To be honest, I don't know whether I'd want to, spend. I'd want to actually spend some time in the park, I think. So I don't know whether I'd want to spend even $100 on a fast pass and the park's done. But the way that you can enjoy the park, I suppose, at your leisure, knowing that you've got this. But yeah, $100 per, so $10 per attraction. I think so, again, it's a reasonable point. It's something where how many of the attractions are worth $10? Actually, I think you could argue a fair few here. Hyperspace Mountain, the new Frozen Ever After ride, which is slightly different to the one that's in Orlando, but also different to the one in Tokyo. It's the same one that's, I believe, is coming to Paris. You get the Iron Man experience, which I'm 90% certain on that one, to be fair. I've not really tried. Mystic Manor, again, which is their... It's not really their haunted, but it's slightly different. It's a little bit more joyful. If you don't know the ride, check out some videos of it. It looks like a phenomenal little ride. Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is kind of a version of Buzz Lightyear. It's basically what they replaced their Buzz Lightyear with. $10 per attraction, or $8.50 if you're just going for the ride. I think, yeah, again, it's another one. If I was just going there for a day, I would be tempted by this sort of price. $100 for a day on top of my park tickets, especially when the price of the park isn't as much either. I would quite happily consider this as a viable option. Same goes with Paris. Again, it just depends on how busy the day is. I haven't done a median because I've only found the one price on this, which is 800 Hong Kong dollars. So again, if I'm wrong on any of my calculations, just let me know in the comments and I will apologise. I will probably not delete the video because it's taken me a little bit of time to do this, so I'm just going by what figures I've got on screen. So that's Hong Kong. Again, it's one of the smaller parks. You'll probably do it in a day or two. If you're going to do it in a couple of days, I wouldn't bother. If you're just doing it for a day, just go for a day trip, and it was a fairly busy day, then yes, I would consider buying the fast pass. Okay, so we're down to the last two parks, so Shanghai and Tokyo. So we'll go to Shanghai next, and we'll see where we are with that one. And yeah, Shanghai, the newest of all the parks, the one with the very pretty castle. I haven't been. I want to go, but I have not yet been. So, okay. So what I've done is I have taken the screenshots from the app for the... I've got all three tiers up there briefly, but I'm mainly focusing on the first two tiers of Shanghai's Premier Access. They're the most comparable to Disney World and Disneyland. You have a 15 attraction set and you have an 11 attraction set. The 15 attraction set comes in at 2,710 yen, and that equates to around about $378, which comes down to a price point of $25 per attraction. And for the 11 tier set, it works out at $21 per attraction. But what that doesn't include is the new Halloween show, priority seating, nor does it include a handful of rides, including the Many Adventures Winnie the Pooh. Doesn't include the challenge trails at Camp Discovery. Now, I haven't been to Shanghai, but if you have a look at videos of the challenge trails, it does look like it's something very unique to Shanghai Disney. It's something that I don't think you'd see at any other park. I think health and safety would go nuts at most places. So check some of that out. It does look quite a crazy and interesting attraction. It also doesn't include Rex's Racer, which you can find at Disneyland Paris as RC Coaster, and it doesn't include Woody's Roundup, which is the same sort of shoot range game that you have at several of the other parks. But I think pound for pound, if I was going to go for the day, I would probably, and if I was going to invest, I'd probably go to the bottom tier, because you get all the main, which is why I've kept it on the screen, because you do get all the main attractions. You get Pirates of the Caribbean, you get Peter Pan's Flight, you get Zootopia and Tron, which I think they would be the ones that you would want, and you can get all those main attractions for only $140. I'm not sure if they have more restrictions on that one. It doesn't seem, it's not overly clear on the Chinese website. So, but the two main Premier passes act very much like the expensive ones at Disneyland and Disney World, the Lightning Lane Premiers. Again, is it worth it? I think at $25 per ride, it's again, you're starting to ask ridiculous, silly amounts of money. Again, no, I don't think I would. And maybe if I was just going for a day again, I would possibly start on the bottom tier, or maybe buy some individuals if they do them. I think they do smaller tiers again further down, but I think charging around $20 per attraction, it's just a lot of money to ask for a couple of rides there that certainly aren't worth $20. So just a quick look at Tokyo, because it's not really comparable to any of the other parks. It doesn't have a premier access that's equal to any of the other parks. It only has a price per attraction available, and it doesn't have an overall, you buy one ultra pass that gets you in everywhere. And at the main park, there's actually only 3 rides or attractions that are available, and they equate to between 2,000 and 1,500 yen, which is between around $10 to $14 per ride. Enchanted Beauty and the Beast, Splash Mountain, and the Happy Ride with Baymax, which is like a flat, a bit like the Alien Saucers at Disney World Hollywood Adventure, Hollywood, I think that's where it is. A bit like the Saucer Ride at their Toy Story Land anyway. Again, would you pay for it? Probably on a busy day, you'd probably pick 1 or 2 of those up. Only $10 to $14. $16 for priority seating at the shows. But that's the main park. Okay, so this is the Disney Sea, which is one of my favourite parts of all the parks. It's absolutely stunning. So if you've not been and you ever get a chance to go, that is without doubt, it's certainly worth the extra effort to travel there. Again, same sort of pricing, between 1,500 and 2,500 yen, so between $10 and $16 per attraction. We have the new area rides, which are Peter Pan, Rapunzel, Anna and Elsa. They're going to be if you've ever been to Tokyo, the queuing there, you could be queuing 2 to 3 hours for some of their attractions. So fast passes are kind of a must. When I went, they were still free fast passes. So these Premier Access, definitely probably worth picking up 1, maybe 2 at Tokyo, if you can. But you have the new 3 rides there: Anna, Rapunzel, Peter Pan's Neverland. You also have Soarin', which you'll know from various other parks. Toy Story Mania, again, the same Woody shooting range style ride. Tower of Terror, different theme to, again, the US ones, different theme to the Paris one, so definitely probably worth a venture on there. And Journey to the Centre of the Earth, which I can not recommend highly enough. I think when I took my partner on there, she didn't realise how fast it was going to go, and this just does rocket a fair whack, that ride. So I would say, again, if you've ever been to Tokyo, you know the queues can be quite massive, so picking up 1 or 2 of these will help you get through your day. Overall, I think I worked out that if you went through both parks and you could access every single one of these, you probably won't get them all, because the way it does book like the traditional system, so you book a time slot, so you wouldn't get to go on them all in 1 or 2 days, unlikely. But it would work out at $244 to go on all the attractions via FastPass. So if you're there for 3 days, you might get through them all if you wanted to do that. So would I spend $400 on a Lightning Lane Premier Pass? Probably not. Not me personally. There are those with the money who I'm sure will. There'll be plenty of people who do. I would be very, very surprised to find that it doesn't sell out for the first few months. I think they'll be in very strictly limited numbers to start with, but then they'll build up more and more and more. I just think it's a little bit too much to ask paying customers who have already paid hundreds of dollars to get in, thousands of dollars to stay at the hotels, to pay another $20 per attraction per person. So if you're looking at families of 4 or 5, you're looking at close to $100 for a family to get onto a ride just to jump the queue. Is $100 for a family of 4 really worth it for just to skip 45 minutes of queue or 50 minutes of queue, even an hour of a queue? Christ, I don't earn $100 an hour. If I did, then I'd work. That's kind of a weird way I'd work it out. Do I earn $100 an hour? No, I'm not therefore going to spend $100 to save myself 45 to 50 minutes in a queue. I mean, I'm sure there are some lucky people out there who earn way over $100 an hour, but not me personally. I think it also adds up, and then you've still got everything else you want to do at the park. And yes, you buy yourself more time wandering around the shops, but at the same time, you're also just running through the park, and it's just gonna. I think the park then becomes smaller and smaller, and you're spending less and less time at the park. And I don't know whether you're going to really enjoy it as much. I just think that it just seems a bit of an unnecessary step up to ask people to pay that sort of price per ride. So it's $20 or so on average at the Disney World Park. It's a bit more reasonable at Hollywood because it's only $14.50. On the way I've calculated it, it's actually a little bit more than that because it's going to be at least $400 a day up until New Year. Paris again at $8.50. It's definitely reasonable. It's definitely something to consider. Shanghai at $25. Again, it's just too much. It's just a ridiculous amount to ask people to pay. Hong Kong again, it's much like Paris. It's one of those, if I was going for a day, maybe 2 days, and I just want to make sure that I saw everything at the park, I might pay for one of the passes on one day, but I certainly wouldn't pay it for 2 days. And maybe it's just the Englishman in me. We are sort of genetically engineered to queue. It's like as a child, we're just forced to queue around the block, just to queue for nothing, just to actually learn to queue. I just think that that's just part of the theme park experience. There's a lot of effort goes into some of these queues as well, some of these attractions. Mickey and Minnie's just like a museum to walk around. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad, and there's just so much effort that goes into these theming of these rides. And yes, nobody wants to be stuck there all day, every day for every ride, but if you're going to escape that queue for maybe 5 or 6 rides throughout the day, that's great, and then you queue for the rest. It's what builds the whole day up. It builds the day at the park. You'll still have time to see most things, especially if you're going on multiple days. I think we did 4 days in LA last year, and we saw absolutely everything. We've gone every ride as far as I'm aware. We didn't feel rushed. I just think it's just a little bit too much to ask people who are already paying a ridiculous amount of money to get into the parks. I don't think it's necessarily the best time at the moment to be asking people to do this either. I know in the UK that people are struggling. It's a hard time to be around at the moment. It's a hard time to be asking for extra money. I don't know the situation in America, but from what I hear, it's not much better. The costs are rising left, right and centre, and then I think the theme park prices are rising as well, and then to add extra misery on top of it, to ask people to pay this extra money. My fear is if Disney get enough people doing this, then they'll reduce the amount of Lightning Lane available to other customers who are doing like Lightning Lane multipass. There'll be less time slots available, they'll fill up more, there'll be less available overall time slots, and if it gets to the point that they sort of start squeezing that down and start pushing this higher tier out and almost forcing you to go that way, let's hope they don't. They haven't at Disneyland Paris, and that system's been around for a couple of years now, so, but still I do fear with Disney that they're a step away from having their hand right in your pocket and, you know, taking the money out themselves. And as much as I love the parks, and as much as the cast members are great, as a corporation, admittedly they've got to make money, but there's a point where the customer is getting priced out of it, and I think that's where they're getting very close to. Anyway, enough of my waffle. I've waffled on for far too long. If you've got this far, or if you just skipped to the conclusion, that's fine. Just please leave a like, a subscribe, and thank you for watching. And if you did stay for the whole thing, very much a big thank you. And if you stayed awake throughout it, even more congratulations. So hopefully I'll be making more content over the next few months. Hopefully not all of it will be 30 minutes long, some of it will be a lot shorter. I'll be doing more ride videos, and I'll be doing top 5 lists and bottom 5 lists, and yeah, so enjoy your times at the parks, be careful, treat everyone with kindness, especially in the queues, and yeah, good luck and good night.